Hello, the men. We're
Hello.
down the road from Hammersmith in Shepherd's Bush. Hammersmith is where it all started 20 years ago at the Majestic Grill. Please take us back there.
It was a cafe. It was a cafe. It was an old cafe where the Coca-Cola building is now by the tube. And there is a bit more of a backstory really. When we started busking, that was the cafe we used to go and spend the coppers that we earned, sometimes fivers or whatever. But
did you meet there?
No, we met through living in various dens of ill repute, really, wasn't it?
We all moved to London from different places.
Right.
And, me and Paul knew each other before, and we just used to hang around Shepherd's Bush, mostly in Hammersmith, and a kind of group of people with just same sort of tastes and going to gigs and stuff like that.
The Majestic Grill was situated next to a well-known venue in Hammersmith called the Clarendon that used to have various sort of things happening there, like the Club Foot and the heavy metal club, and then downstairs with
Idiot's Ballroom.
Idiot's Ballroom, yeah. So
we were in it,
and it goes back further than that because my dad was a labourer years ago, from Ireland, and he built the trickler steps in the Clarendon Hotel.
So it's total sort of legend.
Yeah, it was legendary. You know, there was loads of people who played there, and it was fun. It was a big a local sort of haunt for all artists in the area.
But how long were you busking for, each of you?
Well, it was 6 months. We lived in a house in Sinclair Mansions, or flat. 4 of us originally, and then
Sinclair Mansions makes it sound really.
It wasn't. It was a drive. In the end there was about 12 of us living there in a sort of 2-bedroom flat, and we used to sort of be the place that anyone who was passing through London come and knock on our door at 2 o'clock in the morning, and always give them a bit of floor space,
Right.
Because we'd all kind of lost our jobs by then as well, so we were just eking out, a living. So.
Did you come down to London with day jobs and?
I got a job in London, and I think we all did initially, but sort of got bored with it and left it and just decided to drift and.
Because you could do that.
Yeah, and benefit, I suppose. But then we went busking, so after that that became our sort of daily job, really.
I think it goes back to the punk thing as well, because I think that we all sort of were into that, and London seemed like such a great place, and for music and stuff, you think you could, people would listen to you. So we all had different reasons for moving there.
But the busking thing was something that we took on because it was an immediate sort of income, where all you had to do was walk down to Hammersmith from Shepherd's Bush, write on a bit of bog paper, stick it on the wall, say if there was somebody there, you'd be there in 20 minutes, and you won it for an hour, and then you get your pitch, get your guitar out, have a couple of spare strings, go to the Majestic Grill, have a cup of tea, because you probably didn't have enough to have a breakfast then, but you go down in the subway, outside the toilets, wash your hands and everything, and get going.
What kind of busking material were you doing? Were you doing standard
No,
American
we
pie?
weren't. That's the thing. We weren't doing standard stuff. We were doing rockabilly things like Johnny Cash, and it's not the Bob Dylan Beatles standard fare. That's
American pie.
Yeah.
No, we didn't do Streets of London or anything like that.
We did a lot of Irish stuff as well, and that would go down.
Yeah, especially around here.
What were your individual influences back in the 70s? You mentioned punk. I know that all of you were very much into the Clash.
Yeah. The Who.
Oh,
Thin
The Who.
Lizzy,
Right.
reggae,
Stranglers,
R&B,
Sex Pistols.
loads of stuff.
Where did the traditional folk thing come in?
It just seemed a natural thing for us to do. We were angry young men, and we had a lot to say. And
It was easy to busk as well with the traditional, country songs or Irish songs. They're easy songs to learn and get your head around. I mean, we often used to learn these songs just a couple of minutes before we played them,
Or not even learn at all.
Or not even learn them at all, just have a stab at them through memory,
Right.
a lot of the stuff
learning.
we used to do was just it was from memory. That you remember a tune that you'd heard way back, and as long as you got the basic chord thing, and that's the thing about busking, you could play the same song all day long, and the money still would flow.
Right.
But when we were living around this area, I mean, all sort of areas in London, they changed, sort of demographically and all that stuff. But when we were here years ago, this was a predominantly West Indian, Irish sort of area, and the pubs we used to go to, the jukeboxes were full of like Irish, predominantly Republican rebel songs,
Right.
and traditional folk songs. And we'd be in the pub, you know, we'd be busking, we'd go and have like a bit of lunch, and then if we get another spot, we'd go back and do a bit more, get some money, and then go to the pub, like, you know, like we do. And then when we're in the pub, we'd be listening to stuff on the jukebox and taking it in, you know, and it all sort of like logs in your memory bank, and then we go off and play it the following day.
And I read somewhere that before you got the Clarendon alternative country gig, which was
That was,
where you sort of
that was the Electric Ballroom, actually.
all right,
Yeah.
where you came together, you were absolutely happy with this lifestyle and had no intentions of forming, and then they couldn't hang. Is that true?
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
we were doing the busking, and I
We've
think
been in bands before, haven't we? And
Yeah,
it hadn't worked out. You
Paul
know.
and I have been in bands, Ricky's been in bands, but we weren't looking to do what we were doing on stage, but we were asked to do it, and you know, we couldn't believe it from the first
We
gig.
didn't have a name.
Yeah.
We
Well, that was-
started off with it when we did that gig. It was Easter weekend, and it was in the Electric Ballroom in Camden with a host of other like bands doing various sort of musical styles and stuff. And we were all quite like friendly with each other. Like we used to go not just busking in Hammersmith, we used to busk at Camden a lot with people from Madness and the Pogues, and you know there'd be loads of different. There'd be people from all like you know all genres there doing whatever. And we didn't even have a name at the time, you know. We didn't have a band. We only had there was like 2 or 3 of us. We had the skeleton of a band, you know. But
So did you hear about that gig just by coincidence?
Busking.
The
Busking
Yeah.
at the time.
Right.
The guy walked by, said, "Do you want to play a show tomorrow night?"
Tomorrow
there
night.
was there was a woman called Mary actually who lives in Portobello Road who put it together. Who was a friend of Shane's and Shane McGowan and the Pogues and stuff. And she sort of organised it. But we went and met in that pub. We went to the Black Horse in the West End, and we were sitting there, and we didn't have a name. You know, we didn't have a drummer. We had no equipment.
We didn't
But
have any
it all fell into place. It fell into place that day.
We had dreams.
Yeah.
24 hours later, you're up on stage
Yeah. And it
with
was
Shan,
fantastic. Yeah.
with Shan on bass
Yeah.
before Ricky joined,
Yeah.
and it went great.
Yeah. It was. It was a hoot. It was a fantastic gig.
We just like Chris said, we were part of it. There was a scene, the busking scene was something. So we had friends on that. We just roped in a couple of extra friends. Shan was one of them. We used Andrew from the Pogues to drum, and we used Jen, the accordion player from the Pogues, who played with us as well that night. And yeah, it was like and everyone would share each other's equipment. You know, but in fact, I can't remember what we had, but we couldn't have had guitars.
We did a set that was 20 minutes long, and I think we did. I think was it Nights Went Walking, Talking, Nights
Yeah, I
Went.
remember.
We had 2, and we had 3 songs
Yeah.
of Swill Row,
Right.
and we
Hush Up
did
Baby.
like Did we do Hush Up Baby? We did like Rawhide and kind of like High Note, yeah, and just like Eddie. We because we were just doing stuff.
Just like Eddie.
we were like
Hines.
Hines, yeah.
We were a comedy band, didn't we?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing.
But also we
we
things
were
like
just.
French France as well. And stuff
Yes,
like
well,
that,
we-
which
that's-
taking our busking set. Yeah, which is still
But
doing
you know,
that.
you're trying to sort of like embrace the whole thing, serious elements of what we were into, but also good humour. And we were going out, we were like living it up, like large in London as you did. And,
Did you know that Elvis Costello was in the crowd?
he wasn't in the crowd then. That was
Oh, I
that
thought
was
he
another
spotted
gig.
you.
That was back in the Clarendon.
Right.
But no, going back to that whole scene, it was an antidote to this sort of shoegazing, like dull techno thing. No disrespect to people who are trying to be
Shoegazing.
creative. Yeah, but the thing about I've got a keyboard in my bedroom and I'm staying in here. Where that wasn't our bag at all. We were always into the live thing, the electric guitar shop, and that's
That was the time of the Fairlight, wasn't it? The sample.
Yeah,
playing,
all that sort of
all drum
stuff,
machines
yeah.
was just for the sheer hell of it.
Yeah.
But the politics, 1983, Margaret Thatcher had been in for 4 years. Where were you on the political spectrum, Ricky? Where were you?
Completely on the left, just wasn't interested in anything sort of other than being a left-wing band,
Right.
We just had the Falkland War, and
Yeah.
then, and then rapidly, within a year, the miners' strike. Without banging on about it, because it is a bit cliched nowadays, really. And then as a band, we've moved, in lots of different directions since then. But right at that point, we seemed to be the music and the politics were kind of fused together really. And
Shirt of Blue related directly to Minor Strike.
yeah,
Yeah.
it did.
Now, can you tell me just about your songwriting, how these songs come about? Because I
Well-
noticed your credits, one of you is credited, and then after the Oblique, you've got the rest of the band. Can you tell me, how do you write songs?
That's the way we do it. We always, everyone gets
Because
credit. and we work out
we're the only true like democratic band left, you know. I mean,
of course.
whoever writes the song gets the credit,
Yes.
but the rest of us always get a cut, and we've never ever argued about like
That's
the lion's
all
share.
right once, yeah.
So
I've
it
never
works.
I've
It
never
wo-
written
it
a
does-
song
it does-
in my life
it's
and stop
living-
giving me money.
but it's living proof that it works. You
Right.
don't have to sort of divide and rule. It doesn't have to be that way.
Right. So when Elvis Costello spotted you at the Clarendon, he was invited along. Did you know?
Yeah, he was
you knew
invited.
that you were playing
He
to.
was invited by. We'd started doing. We did one demo in the studio across the road, and we recorded about 6 or 7 tracks. And I went to Rock On Records in Camden, and Ted Carroll and Roger Armstrong, who run Ace Records, and Phil Chevron was working there, who later went on to produce and play with the Pogues. And he was a sort of like a friend of mine, like a friend of like ours, and we sort of used to meet up with him, and he'd be like, inquiring into our progress and what we were doing. So I gave him the demo, and he was, really enthused by it. And he'd released a single on Imp Records, which was Elvis's label, called The Captains and the Kings. And there was another single out that Elvis did it was called Pills and Soap, under the pseudonym of The Imposter. And then he invited Elvis down to the gig. We did a gig with the Pogues and the Boogaloo Foot Tappers, and we were all arguing who was going to go on last because everyone just wanted to get slashed. So I think we were on first, didn't you?
I can't
No,
remember.
no. Yeah, well, I think we did go on first. But anyway, yeah, Elvis turned up at the gig, and we done Greenfields of France, and we had a debate whether to do. The debate was whether to do Greenfields of France or Night to Remember, or Walking Talking as
He basically he said he wanted to make a single.
Yeah.
He wanted to put this year to make a single. But there was this kind of thing of which should be Greenfields of France or should it be Walking Talking. And the feeling was at that time was that Walking Talking could do well, but then it would put us into a certain
cowpunk bracket.
yeah. So we went with Greenfields, and actually it was #1 in the Indies for, I can't remember, like 30 odd weeks or something. It was.
Now, how long was there in between your very debut gig at the Electric Ballroom and the Clarendon?
Well,
Not really any time at all.
no.
So obviously your perspectives have changed very quickly.
Yeah.
No, they didn't. Our perspectives didn't change. It was just that, like our sort of mode, like the pattern of what we were doing. We were still living in squats just around the corner from here, but we were like inundated with work. Like I say, we made one demo. We must be the
But also
luckiest
around
band in
that
the world.
time as well, we got John Peel session, which was really was
He
amazing.
championed you.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah,
And
that-
from the
that
it was
really
on,
made a
like,
big
on the strength
difference.
of things like the Greenfields of France. But at the time, we were in the studio in Wapping, and the Pogues were in there doing their first album, and we started on our first album. So we block booked the studio, and they were in and out, and we were in and out, and we were off doing shows and stuff. So it worked really well. And it worked fantastically well at the beginning, didn't it? So
Yeah, and that was all over one summer, really.
we lived on toasted cheese
April
sandwiches.
to yeah.
1984.
Cans of
yeah,
Holst.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it did well in the indie charts, 92,000
Yeah.
candles, and,
Yeah.
and suddenly things are sort of going forward apace, because next thing you know, you've got MCA at your door.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
Well, I mean, I think they
They
saw.
sent a limo around.
Yeah, they did many times. They saw how
Yeah,
well
there's
it's
loads of
done.
cheese on toast.
Yeah. The indie charts, success. Obviously, the majors then think, well, there must be something there. Or have a bite.
It wasn't just that though. It was we were with Demon, and it was the thing about like finance and like progression for us, and they didn't have the financial clout to make things work. All the tour support and the logistics and everything else that goes with it.
But
And we weren't actually contractually obliged to them. So they said
They were very good. Actually.
yeah, they were
said,
brilliant.
"We
They
can't
always
give
have been good with us. So.
Yeah. But it's ironic to talk about, they couldn't give us the tour support, and
Yeah.
because I mean 5 weeks earlier we were, wondering where our next tin of mackerel was going to come from,
Yeah.
So it's bizarre, really. Happened very fast in 1984.
Did you leave the planet at all?
Yeah.
The thing was as well is
For about
that,
3 years. Yeah.
and we'd
What planet is that?
we've stayed outside and all that. But suddenly things were kind of almost not taken out of our hands, but then we had like a manager who was talking to people that we weren't talking to, and you know, journalists and so on. And you know, I'd say in some respects maybe we kind of not lost sight of what we're doing, but we weren't completely in charge of what was going on. And it's great for people like us to be given the opportunity suddenly to go around and tour the world and to have people
That's a bad idea.
who know our music and stuff like that. That's great. And as far as we're concerned, we're travelling around in a brilliant bus. We're having a good night every night, and we're getting paid to do it. But at the same time, there's sort of compromise being made when you sign to a major label. Because for us, we were very independent. We sell out as people. We have views about how we want to do things, and then it's taken out of your hands a little bit. So, I mean, personally, I think the MCA thing is, if I could go back, I wouldn't be up for that move.
I read that they wanted you to be a crossover. They saw you as a crossover act. Crossover into what? From alternative country to...
No, it was not. I don't think it was MCA so much. It was more
The New Clash.
It was, no, that was later when we were
The New Clash?
No, that was when. Well, they did have that sort of notion, but that more, you know, sort of. Yeah, we went to Warner Bros.
That's when they really.
And that's when
started
they
putting the pressure on.
really
Yeah,
like
yeah.
decided
Dad
what
joined,
they
yeah.
wanted.
Oh,
And it was
yeah.
a kind of a cross between John Cougar Mellencamp and Tom Petty that they
Oh,
wanted
right,
us.
yeah.
right.
I mean, they even talked about getting their producers over to work with us and so on. So
So
when
they
really
were sending
started
us over
taking it
there
on.
as well.
Yeah.
What were the differences in the way that you recorded Night of a Thousand Candles and How Green Is the Valley?
Phew.
Well,
The first one was live version.
Yeah, and like going back to when we had that studio, Elephant Studios in Wapping, block booked.
12 days was all it took to record that.
Yeah, and we were in there. We were literally in there 24/7. You know.
It's the usual story, isn't it? Really, do your first album in.
Yeah, and but
12
also
days
it taught us
you know.
it taught us a lot about this,
That's
the
three
whole
months.
thing. Like we were learning, you know, about like sounds and doing. We had to do things ourselves. There's no, you know, none of all this getting a disc with samples on if you wanted whatever sound effects we would do. You know, I mean, I remember like there was the whopping, the strike. The pickets were at News International.
Yeah.
Right? And there was police on horseback galloping, chasing pickets down the cobbled streets,
Outside
like
the
in
studio,
Wapping,
yeah.
like just up the road. They'd come from
Uncle Nick,
well, outside News International and down past the Prospect of Whitby pub, down in Wapping, down Wapping High Street where the tune was. And of course, a lot of the pickets there, they weren't from there. They'd be coming from miles, you know, all over the country, and they'd be chased by bat and wielding cops on horses. You know, I remember I was out there with John, with Swill's brother, the drummer at the time, and we had a brothel creeper shoe bashing it on a piece of steel to get this like effect that we put on a drum track.
Right.
And as we were out there, they, you know,
We recorded
The
the
film galloping
you
past.
know, the mounted police going by because they were trying to creep up the back street so they could
Wow.
kind of do a pincer movement
yeah.
on the strikers. And we saw them because the studio was a basement. There was a little slit window, and looking up you could see all these hooves go by. So we stuck a microphone up, and it actually ended up somewhere on Ghost of Cable Street. The
Alright.
sound of the police horses going by. You listen very carefully. You know.
And
We've always had it, like saying about recording, and you know, the process has never changed with us much. We've always had a huge input on the overall production and the final product, and that goes back to the first album to everything else we've done. We might have a producer, and you know, we've had different producers doing stuff, but at the end of the day, we've always been happy, or pretty much happy with what's come out. You know, at the time.
We did do a version of Ghost of Chemistry on
Oh,
MCA, where so they thought we could have a hit single with
Yeah.
a thing like Ghost of Chemistry, which was a political song anyway.
yeah.
And they took us up into this office and said, "This is the mix that we've done, you know, behind your backs," and they played it to us. And the guy sat behind the desk tapping his feet. It sounds great, and it sounded like Pinky and Perky. It was, you know, it was just unbelievable.
They'd speeded it up.
Yeah, but
And they had it on the
sped
wrong
up.
speed, but the guy didn't even realise. To him, he thought that, you know, it sounded
But
great.
it didn't make any difference to him anyway.
So he had a finger on the
But
pulse.
no, but we had, there was people involved in the industry that we met that, you know, they did look after us, you know.
No, yeah, there was some
We've got no gripes, you know, sure things that could have gone whatever way with us, but at the end of the day, we were well catered for, and, you know, there was people who had empathy towards what we were about, and, you know, we moved
Did
to
MCA drop you, or did you drop
Yeah.
them?
They dropped us, but we moved with the the guy, the A&R
We
bloke.
would have dropped them if they hadn't dropped us anyway.
Yeah. Well, we made. Well, go on, tell them.
What?
The MCA party.
Oh yeah, we went to a party there.
We won't go
Oh,
into
come
that
on,
one.
gossip, come on, please.
It's not so much gossip, is it? It's just.
I suppose the thing is that we
It's
wouldn't
how-
be as well behaved as other
The
artists.
Nick Kershaw was there, you know, the old guy who did the riddle, he was there at the same time. And we put it this way, we had a pretty good time at that party and we were dropped quite soon afterwards.
Funnily enough, it was when Ronald Reagan was in charge of MCA there at the time. So, and we'd been like sort of ostracised from the States for being un-American and of no artistic merit.
Right.
That was fun.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
So moving on to the Magnet era, that was good for you initially.
It could have been brilliant actually, but right in the middle of the Magnet, they sold the company to Warner Brothers, and this was just before our, you know, I still think is our best album, Wait the Bonaparte, came out, you know, with the kind of tracks on that probably could have got a lot of success, I think. But right in the middle of, you know, just before the release date, this all happened, you know, so one team was out and then a whole new big corporate thing like Warner Brothers came into it. So I mean, when we first turned up at Warner Brothers at the reception, you know, they didn't know who or that we'd been signed even, you know, and
They told
a
us
big
it
book,
come
you know,
in.
under M, you know.
They
Yeah.
come down to
find
us
us.
and Roland Rat. It was like they couldn't make up their mind which one to
No, that was
keep.
mine.
It was Roland Rat.
I read somewhere that
So
some
Roland
A&R
Rat's
guy,
the name.
Yeah,
Roland Rat's
Rat.
fault, yeah.
some A&R guy sort of looked at the roster and said Roland Rat was at 60 and you were at 59.
Yeah,
That's right,
That's it,
that's
that's
the
it.
truth, yeah.
And they don't really want you, and you can stay if you change your name. Is that
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, well,
That was
they also
Yeah.
wanted us to, they wanted us to do not Atomic Rooster, what do you call them?
That was a Virgin Prunes or something.
No, no,
Some weird song.
Yeah, they
Like
wanted
a
to
Skids,
do a cover.
Skids song
They
or
wa-
something.
Yeah.
A heavy rock cover. Atomic
No,
Rooster.
no.
Not really, no, but that's all. Just something that
And they
that
wanted-
it suit, but then they couldn't hang it.
Yeah, basically they wanted to do, they wanted
The
us,
electric
never mind,
prunes.
the
Electric
electric
Prunes.
electric
Electric
prunes,
Prunes.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
right.
I was
I
doing
mean,
electric
yeah.
Prunes track, yeah.
But they said to
I
us,
like the electric prunes, but I didn't want it to do for us to do our, you know, opening gambit with Warner Brothers as
The
theirs.
cover.
Right.
Yeah.
We
They
made
basically
the
said
songs
if
on
we-
on Wait for Bonaparte.
So I left the
Mhm.
office.
yeah.
we
We
all
all
left.
We all did.
We changed our name.
Well, he said, if I hear from you in the next 2 weeks that you're willing to, you know, do what we ask you to do, i.e. change your name and do one of these songs, then we'll go ahead. If I don't hear from you in 2 weeks, I'll assume the contract's over. So we went off, went to the pub, had a quick chat, moved on.
That's it.
Wow. But very luckily, I mean, so luck does seem to follow you as well. You've got all these hassles, but then
Yeah,
you
good luck.
landed on your feet with Silvertail.
Yeah, well,
Andrew Lauder.
yeah, well, he was there from the
Right, there's a
beginning.
Demon.
He was there, like, he was looking after Demon and stuff,
Oh,
or
right,
Jake
so that's the
Riviera,
thread
who
that
was
goes through.
Elvis's manager, and, you know.
Right, right.
Andrew's a great guy. He's, you know, got the world's biggest record collection, I reckon, and he discovered Elvis Costello and lots of other people, and Stone Roses for that matter.
Right.
And we got on really well with him. So when we finished at Warner's, he stepped into the breach and said, "I'm starting up a new company called Silvertown. Yeah, do you want to sign to it?" So we said,
Yeah.
Yeah.
"Fantastic."
And like when we set out originally, we didn't sign. There was nothing on paper. When they released stuff for us, like they did Greenfields as our first single, Iron Masters, an album, nothing written down. Just
Well, probably why we never got paid as well.
well, no, but we did. You know, we got money. We got paid out of it, and
Got a
you know,
bag of chips here and there.
We actually
Yeah.
done 2 albums,
Yeah.
and one label as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which was
Yeah.
a bit
Of
of
those
miracle
first
for
4
us.
albums, you were saying Waiting for Bonaparte was your
My
favourite.
favourite.
Yeah. Stefan.
Personally.
Well, I don't know. That it changes, you know, depending what fit we move I'm in. I do like Waiting for Bonaparte just because of the power of and the construct of the material that's on it. But I like Silvertown, I like that album a lot. But I mean, overall, yeah, all the stuff we've done, I'm proud of what we've done.
Right. In the 4 or 5 years from when you got together from 84 to 89, initially indie cred band, and NME, John Peel sort of championed your cause. NME towards the end was saying they've become too samey. They're doing exactly the same now as they did 5 years ago. What were you sort of in terms of direction as a band? What were you looking to towards the end of the 80s?
America, probably. If I'm honest, yeah. I mean, I think
we were geared up to, you know, we were on a major label. We was at the end of the 80s. That was when we were with their Warner Brothers, and then we went to Silvertone. But
the musical landscape
we
was
hadn't,
changing, wasn't it?
yeah,
You know?
we hadn't done, we'd done Europe like every year. When we first started off, 85, 86, 87, it nearly killed us, you know, we were on the road. The first time we went out on the road, we did a 3-month tour of Europe, didn't we? In a shite van, you know.
No days off.
Yeah.
I mean,
No.
No.
Back to
don't
back.
get me wrong, it's not that we're not sort of griping about that, but
Yeah.
it really is, it's hard toil, it's hard going, and you want to see, you know, like progress in what you're doing, and the people behind you, like what's going to happen next.
Well, it would be nice to have seen a few record sales as well.
Well, yeah, and the thing about, like, obviously, yeah, Americana would have been,
Yeah.
and we've had
so
so
it
much
would have been
influence from
That just came about 8 years too late for us.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we'd have fitted right into it. You know.
which is, yeah,
When we were doing our last record of that particular phase, like in '89, we did the Domino Club.
Yeah.
We were in the same studio as the Stone Roses, who were just making their first, record, and it did hit me then that, we have been bypassed really, and we have grown a little bit, stale, and music is moving on beyond us.
And that was basically because you were worrying about the next gig.
yeah, it wasn't.
You
It wasn't necessarily. I mean, the other thing is because we, our political aspects of our songwriting and stuff, and people were like, oh, it's like they're a firebrand outfit and they're this, that, and the other, and then when we, you try to sort of delve into other areas of stuff. We've always had it like Swill's always written like love songs bordering on some some humour and stuff, and we've always injected some sort of vibrancy and joie de vivre into stuff. It isn't all heavyweight politics. We've tried to sort of measure it out, but because it's easy, isn't it, to pigeonhole somebody in journalist industry. They have to, because it makes their life easier.
Yeah.
What it does to you is another thing, but
And on Domino Club, you had Martin Bell from the Wonder Stuff as playing fiddle.
yeah.
You were into the Wonder Stuff. Was that kind of direction you could have seen yourself going, or?
We shared a producer, Mick Lossoff, with the Wonder Stuff.
And Pat Calder.
Yeah.
Collier, yeah,
I
actually
mean,
was
they're
producers
early
with
stuff.
them. I didn't care for it all that much actually. But in '89,
It's
people
very
were,
indie.
they were starting to take ecstasy and get into dance and
No.
rave, yeah. And that we were so, the opposite of that really.
Right.
But it all started to feel pretty uncomfortable.
You split in '91.
Yeah.
When did you, if we can just go through one by one, when did you start feeling that, perhaps it's time to have a rest?
85 number.
A long way
87
down.
the day I joined. But with the Domino Club thing for me, it was, I was kind of a bit fed up with it.
With the actual gigging and everything, the lifestyle?
Not so much the gigging, it was just musically, I wasn't totally into what we were doing then, But looking back on it now, it sounds quite good, Still some stuff off that album I can't listen to, but I don't know about the rest of the guys, they probably totally disagree.
Swill, when did you sort of start?
I didn't actually feel that I wanted to,
He's in turn locked.
yeah, I kind of wanted to keep going really, but I could see that we'd come to a point where, like you said before, about the long tours and stuff, the thing about us is that we always wanted to, we weren't ever content to do a gig and then just go to bed. So we always pushed the boat out, and we still do. And that does take its toll on you in every sense, physically and emotionally. And I suppose you have to give yourself a break. But I still enjoy touring, and we don't do it so much now. But at that point, I would have been quite happy to keep going. But it's the way things were,
Stefan? why did you-
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, looking back on it, I was like the sort of catalyst that sparked it,
The split?
Well, yeah, to a great degree. But it wasn't necessarily just because I was frazzled. It was because, I couldn't see where the next move was going to take us. And there was people the crew were all moaning that they didn't have the money they were owed, and we were running a big ship then. There was lots of people being relying on us for it was their job, and you'd get people.
So we split up.
Well, no, yeah, but
Before they got
the
paid.
thing is, we were stuck between a rock and a hard place. You know, I mean, you've got management and the record company were indifferent and ambivalent to what you were about, and then you've got an angry crew who's like sequestrated our equipment, you know, for one thing, which they did.
Right.
You know, and we lost one of our. We had a driver who he didn't get killed with us, but it was after a long and strenuous tour with us. He went straight back on the road, and he had a road accident in Switzerland. And at the same time, there was a lot of other fatalities in, you know, around, and it was just there was a few like nasty omens, and to be quite honest, I was a bit scared. I was scared for all our mental and physical health, you know.
Paul, was that said for you?
Sort of. I mean, I think it's just getting to be 30, you know, 89, 90, and we're a bit frazzled, and some of the personal lives were in a bit of a mess, and it had been a brilliant run from 85 for 5 years, but we pushed the boat out, you know, quite considerably, and we kept doing it, and everything's got consequences, you know. But funnily enough, we played one of the biggest gigs we'd ever played was David Bowie at Milton Keynes in that year, so it should have been. People said to us afterwards, you were mad, because you were at the point where you could have really pushed on. But as usual, we just decided to do what we decided on the back of the flag.
Yeah, but we didn't have anything at the time. When we like the push thing, we'd done the album, and it wasn't received to.
The Domino Club was slagged.
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
really decimated.
It was after
Enemy was the one
there was
I was
two
referring to when I said it was very
Melody
samey.
Maker.
Yeah, but it wasn't like
Yeah.
obviously we're still here together.
The reviewer in The Independent said it was the worst hours listening he'd ever had in his life. I can still remember that review because it
And it's
really
only 4
hurt.
weeks,
It was only 3 weeks old.
I know, I thought, you know what,
And your farewell gig,
That
that
was-
was a Town and Country, was it, where you recorded Live Alive, oh yeah? So
Yeah.
That was the actual goodbye to your fans.
no, it stretched on a fair bit.
But
There's
that's
no
so
revoir
strange.
to the farewell.
Yeah.
So it wasn't goodbye.
It was the
just
official
revoir.
farewell.
That was the
you
big
know.
one.
The farewell's been going on ever since.
Well, that's what I was going to say. We had to get over it, but we knew each other before, and it's something. All the stuff that's happened along the way has been part and parcel. It's like
Liberty Cage was a case in point, yeah.
There was no reason to stop being friends because we'd split the band. Because as
we
Chris
didn't
just
fall
said,
out with each other. Obviously you have a few fallouts. Everyone does now and again. But no, that's not why we split up. We didn't fall out. It just sort of, I don't know.
We would have been probably.
So
You pursued other projects, pursued other projects, basically.
Well, just for the sake of something else. What else were you
lie
going to
down
do?
for a few days.
We didn't all turn around and go and get a job in the city or anything. So ultimately, it just seemed obvious that I still enjoy playing, and eventually we do enjoy playing together. And it just seemed very obvious, really.
And
We
how
didn't
did you
stop
get
playing in the interim. We
No,
were
yeah,
doing
that's
a few
what I
shows
meant,
every
yeah.
occasion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had some shows.
Folk finger and.
Yeah.
When did you decide, 1996 you got back together, what was the thing that sparked your reunion?
The offer of making a record from Demon.
Yeah.
Would have been not a lot of point in doing it in any way properly if we couldn't make a decent stab at it, So I said, well, I'm not going to do it unless we can make a record as well and all that. And luckily Demon said, well, okay, we're willing to go with that. So they find out it's never more to follow. And then we were back in the saddle.
And it was enjoyable once again.
Yeah, it was great. It was when the European Championships were on, wasn't it?
Yeah.
We were in the studio with Pat Collier, sort of Beers Park, and it was the summertime, and we packed in our jobs to go and do it as well. It was great. Just what you want to do. I'm making an album.
What job were you doing?
I was working with Mean Fiddler at the time. I was promoter of Mean Fiddler in Harlesden. I mean, I know what I'm saying. I was going to stick two fingers up at them because I mean, in the general sense.
You might get a new gig.
Yeah, we might
Make
need
us to play with
things to
And sort of fast forwarding to much more recent times, Cherry Red Jukebox, latest album, out in 2003. You were already sort of performing some of the songs in 2001. Do you gig songs a lot before you record them?
Were we? I
I'm
don't know
not
if we
entirely
were.
sure if we were.
We may have been doing a couple at home.
Yeah.
I think,
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
we were actually.
Yeah, we were.
Is it-
I
It's
think
two or
it's
three.
the opposite actually. With the previous albums, part of the first album, we'd almost write songs for the album, and we'd be going on tour and then promoting those songs or playing them for the first time in front of an audience. But with Cherry Red Jukebox, I don't know. It's the first time we kind of done everything ourselves, financed.
We did a few demos, didn't we?
We did some demos,
over quite a long
extent.
sort of period of time.
Yeah.
That's how I think
I
that's
think
what
we
we
never
did.
really thought about it. Actually, it's not a conscious thing at all.
We learned quite a few
Just
songs
came
from Cherry Red Jukebox on the day we recorded.
Yeah, in fact, we were doing stuff and writing in the studio almost. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, we all kept writing. I think we'd kind of, you know, so Paul would still, even if we weren't together, he'd still writing songs, and each of us was all write, you know, kind of ideas and stuff. And so that was a good opportunity for us to kind of, you mentioned Living Cage before and Kush said Photograph and stuff. But, you know, we'd carried on.
I never wrote nothing.
No, we that was all. Well, the fact that it was a bit like the very beginning of Medic and Hang in some ways, but.
And at the Academy gig next week, your 20th anniversary, there are about 6 songs from Cherry Red Jukebox, so it's not just going greatest hits, is it? It's
Oh no.
No, it's anything else as well.
Could we go through the set list? And because a lot of sort of legend and stories behind
Go on.
many of your songs. So anything that sort of springs to mind in no particular order. So singing Elvis, what's that?
I suppose it's the whole album essentially is contained in that one song, because this is the most rock and roll album we've ever done, I think, as opposed to more traditional. And I was just thinking about how much I love rock and roll, the music, the life, the jukeboxes in pubs where you kind of have formative experiences. It's just that I love songs to rock and roll music, really.
Right.
It really is as simple as that.
And it takes in T-Rex and
All the stuff you like, and Tammy Terrell was on there as well. It's just, and how it accompanies, how music accompanies every sort of episode of your life. But not in a serious way. This is, there's nothing so potent as cheap music, is there? And it's sort of supposed to be, this is only rock and roll, but it's really, really, really important.
Yeah. Ride Again.
Well, I wrote that one, and really that was pretty much about us getting back together as a band, to do the Cherry Red Jukebox. It had been 7 years since the last one. Just wondering if our old chemistry was still intact. And
Silver Gun.
am I going to do more? That's an interesting one. It's a true story from the local paper, from the Hornsey Chronicle, which I read, and I was interested to see this story. A very glamorous woman was holding up building societies and banks in North London. And she'd go into a bank with gloves and sort of evening dress, and pull out this dainty little gun from her handbag and rob the place. And when they finally caught up with this woman, when the judge asked her if she had anything to say, why she'd done what she'd done, she said, "I've got a very expensive lifestyle to maintain."
Fair play to you.
I did. In a way, I respected her. Yeah.
High Water.
Me?
Yeah. Well.
It was in orders.
Well, yeah, I think I know it's back. No, you might as well. Enough about it.
It's not really. High Water is. It's just a rocking song, really. I don't think you can read too
It's
much.
an amalgam of life and babies and by the
Yeah.
sea and the tide of river and sea and
Colwyn Bay.
well, you'll have to say that.
Yeah, Colwyn Bay. I'd rather not, actually, because that involves somebody that's
Personal.
yes,
I Love the Summer of Hate.
punk rock.
Yeah, that one. That one goes back to Paul and myself, where we knew each other in Southampton before we moved down to London, and we were part of the sort of punk scene then, the Summer of Hate, and it kind of nods back to the sort of things we did then, followed the Clash around, we did a couple of gigs with them as well, but just the general sort of, the lifestyle then was quite good.
Stefan, what was your scene around that time, just before coming to London? Was it punk as well?
Yeah, well, I worked for a PA company, and I was sort of doing gigs like as a roadie and stuff with Aswad and Enduring Blockheads and lots of other bands. And I did Gladys Knight, the Pips, and Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes, and You know, but that I was into all that, you know, like northern soul and reggae and things.
So
So,
that's your thing.
yeah, it
And
really
Ricky,
was.
what was your sort of thing?
Punk rock, really. I was playing in a punk band in Scotland, moved to London, joined the UK subs for a brief period, in a punk band.
So the band was really sort of a marriage of punk rock and northern soul.
Yeah,
Yeah,
You're
and
playing-
then
you're
sort of
playing
bizarre
very-
thing,
a bit of rockabilly.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, because we were, you know, we
Country
were
and
into
everything.
all, like, yeah, all those things. Yeah, I mean, punk and rockabilly and stuff. It was all, you know, sort of one and the same, wasn't it?
Yeah.
To some degree.
Getting back to your sort of classic songs, Ghosts of Cable Street.
In those days, I'd sort of sometimes approach a song like a bit of a sort of task, you know, and I did quite a lot of reading around subject matter for that song.
So you're the historian, are you?
Yeah,
Right.
and it just seemed to be a great story, really, and I thought good songwriting, great stories are going together for me. So it's, and also I think it's, you know, it's such a dramatic. I try to make it as dramatic as possible and try to put the listener right there in the middle of the action. You know, that's what I like to do.
Bounty Hunter.
I've forgotten what I wrote that one about actually.
Is that like a sort of pseudo comic strip?
Well, it
thing
is.
as well,
But we've
isn't it?
always been into, you know, we've always
Jump.
had this theme running through the band of you know, the West, the American West. You know, I mean, we're from you know, Britain, you know, and
Yeah.
but we love
Like real
we love
justice.
westerns and you know, stories of Billy the Kid and cowboys.
In the town I was born, things are getting very strange. People there I hardly recognize. All of my old set have packed their bags and left, since home became a business enterprise. There are jobs going spare, there are houses being built, the credit's good in all the company stores. All the air is clean, all the people's clean, every one of these that come here. The company man, since every street and building in the town, every party
but we don't know where he is.
Oh, the year was 1778. I wish I was in Sherbrooke now. When a letter of marque came from the king to the scummiest vessel I'd ever seen. God damn them all. I was told we'd cruise the sea for American gold. Fire no guns, shed no tears. Well, I'm a broken man on a Halifax pier, the last of Barrett's privateers. Well, said Barrett, cried the town, I wish I was in Sherbrooke now. For 30 brave men, all fishermen who would make for him the Antelope's crew, God damn them all. I was told we'd cruise the sea for American gold, fire no guns, shed no tears. Well, I'm a broken man on a Halifax pier, the last of Barrett's privateers.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out because he's not here.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
Here he is now.
Yes, yes.
1 2 2 1 2 1 2 10 6 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2.
Don't sing love songs, you'll wake her mother. She's sleeping here, right by my side. And in her right hand, a silver dagger says that I can't be a boy.
2 1 2. Yeah, it's fine, yeah.
It should sound real.
Tear your hands and I'll rip that shirt off you. So hey now Tommy, you move away. They take her knife down, they made it. Then I'll just dance with a chemical blend of a cherry rock your food. You see from the back of our class, who much love loves you. You got kids who send them to school, and a dream of a baby boy. Oh, baby, So hey now, Tommy, shall we meet again in the morning? with you.